Bye. Bye. What's going on, dudes and dudettes? So, yes, USC gets one of the transfer portal wide receivers out of the University of Washington, and Terrell Bynum. Apparently, he is not an LA kid, more like an Orange County kid. Went to St. John's Bosco, was like a 3 or 4 star receiver. So a lot of those guys are on the team right now from that school. Not that crazy that he's transferring back, but apparently he must be pretty talented. So hopefully that is the case, and USC got a good one on their hands. And then they finally hired their defensive line coach. He's from the University of Michigan, so they had a pretty good year this last year. They're probably going to get the #1 overall pick in Aiden Hutchinson, and another guy, David Ojoba, who's also like a good linebacker who plays on the defensive line. So glad that they were able to pick up the coach Sean Nua, or I don't know if that's how you say his last name. That's how it looks like, but yes, he looks also like he's of Polynesian descent as well, which is going to help out USC getting a lot of those very talented guys on the West Coast to stay instead of going all the way to like Utah or BYU, other places like that. So hopefully he does stick around, because I liked Vic Soto, who was there last couple years, but luckily they found another guy that looks like he's very talented. Then the Lakers had a couple of decisions to make on both Avery Bradley and Austin Reeves. If they wanted to just let them go right now for their contracts, so they're not counted towards this year, but luckily they are keeping both players, which is what I like, because they actually have been playing pretty well this year. And if something happens where you have to add another player or two to match up, salaries in a trade, they're also good enough players, because they've both been playing pretty well this year. One a rookie, and then another guy who was released from another team, and the Lakers picked him up because he was on the team a couple years ago, and it's like he's never left. So that's always a good thing to have when you're the Lakers. Then they also re-signed Stanley Johnson. I was talking about this. I thought they were going to make him have a full regular NBA deal, but I guess that first 10-day was like a hardship thing for COVID. So now they're able to put him on the regular 10 days, which is cool, I guess, which he's willing to do. Most guys wouldn't be wanting to do that, but they might be doing that for the next 20 some odd days, because they can put him on a 10-day again after this, and then officially decide if they want to keep him on the team or sign him to it, which I think they will. But as of right now, they still have that one extra roster spot of flexibility in case they want to make a big trade or not. So definitely looking forward to that. And then ex-USC running back, we call him now, Keontae Ingram, who transferred there this last season from Texas and played pretty well. Just sucks that sometimes the offense they were running with Graham Harrell didn't help him out a lot, but he did play very well towards the end of the year, and must have got some good news because he's declaring for the NFL draft. So good luck to him. I'm pretty sure he has a chance to get drafted pretty late and be a third string, maybe a practice squad guy automatically, and then work his way up. So good luck to Ingram. And then Caleb Williams, the Oklahoma quarterback, is apparently one of the biggest transfer guys of all time right now. I think this last season he played pretty well. I don't think he was like as great as everybody's saying he was. He did supplant Spencer Rattler, who was a guy I didn't like in the first place. I thought he was overrated. And of course he was, because he allowed a freshman to take his job. And now he's not even considered a first round pick or top 5 pick at all at the quarterback position. But this guy, I don't think he's that great. I know he went to Oklahoma just because of Lincoln Riley, who is now at USC. But I don't know if he's really going to follow him for that to have good coaching, or if he's going to just go to wherever pays him the most, which, I mean, I heard one school, Eastern Michigan, I believe it is, they're offering him like just $1 million, one of the ex-players, just to go over there and play. So I guess that's the starting point for other schools, but I don't think he'd go to a smaller school like that. I think he'd rather stay somewhere better. But yeah, I prefer Jackson Dart as of right now because we haven't really seen much from him. And I'm pretty sure if Caleb Williams showed up on USC's campus, he'd probably transfer by the summer. Jackson Dart, that is. So it's gonna suck, but we'll see how that carousel goes. Then USC offensive lineman Casey Collier, I believe he's in his second season. He just finished his second season. I guess he's gonna transfer out. He put his name in the portal. I thought he made a lot of good progress this last season, but apparently they're either telling him that he's not gonna have a guaranteed starting spot, or they don't think he's as talented, so he probably should transfer. So I guess that's the situation we have on our hands at the moment. So good luck to him. And then also the Lakers, who had another 10-day contract in Darren Collison, they did not re-sign him. So as of right now, he's not back with the Lakers. So good luck to him, and we'll see what his future holds. He hardly even played for the Lakers when he finally got his opportunity. So good luck to him. Then, yes, Duke basketball finally returned. It's been like since pretty mid-December where they had to stop because of COVID, and luckily they're able to come back. It's been a couple weeks, and they got to play Georgia Tech, who's a pretty good team. Throughout the game, Duke kind of had it, but they did allow DeVoe to kind of go off, and he kind of did go off because once Coach K called a timeout, then he started talking crap to Coach K, or he must have said something because Coach K like kind of went after him and said, "Oh, you shouldn't say that," or was trying to get the officials to know about what he had said. So luckily after that, Duke went on a pretty nice run and won the game. I think, yeah, it was 69-57, so a nice 12-point victory. And luckily they are still undefeated now in the ACC, so hopefully it can continue tomorrow. Saturday, I believe they play Miami, so hopefully that game is still going on and they could go get a couple more wins in the ACC. Then, speaking of returns from COVID, yes, USC basketball finally returned yesterday, Thursday night, against Cal. They played up there in Berkeley, and luckily they did get that victory as well, 77-63. So they're now still one of the only 3 teams in college basketball Division I that is still undefeated. I believe it's 13-0. Guys played well. Their stars, Isaiah Mobley, Drew Peterson, and Boogie Ellis, they all played very well, scoring double digits. So that's what you'd like to see. Hopefully it does continue. I know they had a game tomorrow, Saturday, like Duke, but they're playing Stanford. But I think Stanford has some COVID issues going on, so they had to reschedule that for Tuesday. So hopefully it's not, I think that's going to make it like a 3-game week for USC next week. So they're probably going to lose next week and be defeated. So hopefully not, but we'll see. Then when it comes to those basketball players, 3 guys total from the teams that I follow, Duke and USC, have made the top, it says top 25 Wooden award list, the mid-season list. I don't know if that means these are the top 25 players, or if you're in the top 25 these guys count. I don't know, but hopefully it is the top 25 players, because at least a couple of these guys have been playing like that. Paulo Banchero, obviously the highly rated guy from Duke, is on there. Wendell Moore, who's even surprising me this year. He's had a lot of good stats. He did play kind of crappy this last game, finally, but yes, hopefully he can still continue to play well. And then aforementioned Isaiah Mobley of USC is still on the list as well. So hopefully one of those guys makes the Final Four for that list, but I'm pretty sure they're not going to win. There's a lot of other guys like the Big Ten who are getting more attention right now, like from Iowa, Wisconsin, and all that stuff. So we'll see. Should be an interesting end to the season for them. Then someone asked if the Chargers this offseason should trade for pretty talented wide receiver in Calvin Ridley from the Atlanta Falcons. I know he was a top draft pick from them a few years back, but this whole last season, he started the first couple games and then he left because of personal matters, and then he never really returned. So I don't know if that was like a COVID thing or he's still dealing with the personal matters off the field. But I know the Atlanta Hawks put out a presser recently saying that they would like to move on or switch. Hopefully he could switch teams. So that definitely means they're looking for a trade, and maybe you won't have to give a first round pick, because I know he's played like a first round talent as of late the past couple of years, but because of this uncertainty, you probably could get him for as high as a second round pick, maybe another player. If it's just a one guy, if you just get Ridley and you give him a draft pick, hopefully that's good enough. But if you have to add in another player or two, but if you can get like a guy on the defensive line, Grady Jarrett from them, that would be even awesome too. But I don't think Atlanta is going to be in the wholesale of blowing up that team and allowing someone else to get that much better. But hopefully they are dumb enough to do that for the Chargers. Then when it comes to the Lakers, yes, earlier in the week they did play Sacramento. It was a pretty close game throughout. Luckily, they were able to get the victory by a handful of points. Forgot the score, but it was surprising because at the end realized that Russell Westbrook has been going through all this drama of always turning the ball over. Even the last game, he had 9 turnovers, and somehow he finished this game off with 0 turnovers, and it's like the first time in like 400 plus games, so like going back a couple years, that he hasn't turned the ball over in one game, which is pretty crazy. It's hard to do, but it's definitely harder for him because of the way he plays, because he's always going to end up getting a turnover somehow. But luckily he was able to not get one, and they got the victory still. And LeBron just had a big fourth quarter. I think more than half his points came from there as well, when they were still a little bit down, but he kind of turned it up. And hopefully him turning it up like this early in the season won't end up hurting him later, because Davis is still out. But yes, definitely looking like an all-star so far. Then speaking of all-stars, yes, today apparently is when you pick your players, it counts as double the point votes. So I did it today. I only do it once, so as of right now, kind of the guys that I feel that are, deserving of an all-star starting. Obviously for the West, it's Curry. And one guy who's surprising me a lot is DeJounte Murray of San Antonio. He might not have like the best winning percentage of these guys, but he does almost average a triple-double, so that's pretty impressive to me. I've noticed him a lot on the daily fantasy stuff. And then obviously LeBron James, had to put him up there because he's been more consistent, hasn't missed as many games as a lot of the other guys in this position. So that's why I went with him. Then Nikola Jokic of Denver, he's been pretty consistent, hasn't missed that much games as well, and he's considered right now front runner for MVP again in back-to-back years. And then Karl Anthony Towns, who's been playing pretty well. He's missed a couple games recently because of COVID, but once he came back, he was still scoring a lot and helping his team win. So gotta go with him. And then when it comes to the East, obviously my ex-USC player DeMar DeRozan has been going off this year. I think he's been, of the 3 top players of Chicago, he's been the better player. So I give the nod to him. And then someone who's actually been coming off the bench more, but it's kind of not correct, the stats, because he comes off the bench but he plays starter minutes, and Tyler Hero. I only know of how good he's been because he's on my fantasy football or fantasy basketball team, so I know his stats, and they're a lot better than some of the other guys that are starting in the East, so I went with him. And then when it comes to the forwards/centers, obviously Durant, another guy I have in my fantasy, and he's also considered an MVP type of guy as well. He's been playing off the charts, even though he missed the past week or so with COVID, but still his numbers alone deserve him a starting nod in the All-Star. And then Evan Mobley, had to go with another USC guy, but this rookie is really showing that he belongs in the NBA. And Cleveland is a playoff team right now. I think they're like 6th or 7th or 8th right now in the East, which is pretty crazy because they lost one of their top point guards/shooting guards early, and they're still playing well with the type of guys they have, and his stats are making the case for him winning Rookie of the Year and being an All-Star. And plus, since it's the All-Stars in Cleveland this year, they usually like to have at least one guy on there. So if he doesn't get a starting spot, then hopefully he does get a reserve role off the bench, which I think he can get. And then obviously had to go with Giannis. It was either between Giannis or Embiid. I think Giannis's numbers have just been a little bit better, even though both have missed some time. But still, I kind of went with the numbers right here. Probably could have chose both of them over Mobley, but had to make sure Mobley gets at least some type of recognition in order for him to get into at least the reserve role, as I mentioned. So those are my All-Stars of 2022 NBA season, so it should be very interesting. Then, yes, there was a pretty big game the other night. I think it wasn't yesterday. I forget when it was. But yes, two Duke stars ended up making both game-winning shots for their teams. Tatum came down for the Celtics, made a shot to put them up. And then the very next play, with only like 1.5, 1.2 seconds left, RJ Barrett threw up a shot and it went off the backboard and in for the three. And New York ended up winning that game. But I just thought it was really cool that both the Duke players ended up getting a chance to try to get the victory for their team, even though Barrett probably wasn't the best option at that time, but he was the one that was more open. And luckily he was able to get that shot in because it looked pretty cool. Everybody was celebrating in New York. Yeah, Tatum also made a nice move. Very cool to see. Definitely glad those guys are playing well. Sucks that, you know, guys like Zion aren't able to play. I know he's been like, they actually sent him to Portland to be able to work out and stuff. I don't know if that was a Pelicans thing or even a Nike thing. So I know Nike probably pays him more money than the NBA does right now because they're trying to make sure he gets back onto the court at some point this season. But yeah, should be very interesting. And yeah, sorry, had to get more space. So yes, to finish this off, Kevin Porter Jr., ex-USC player, was involved in some type of halftime thing, altercation with his teammates or team. So they ended up sending him home. So he was kind of already having like a dark label against him coming into this recent game with the Wizards. But he came back, apologized, everything was good. And then he ended up hitting the game winner in that game at Washington, which is pretty cool. Another USC guy hitting a game winner recently, but also it came with some controversy because during the game, apparently one of the announcers slash analysts came out and made a weird comment saying like, oh, he shoots just like his father or something like that. But apparently that analyst assumed this was a son of one of their ex-players, Kevin Porter, that played in the 70s, but obviously it wasn't. And it's just even weirder because in real life, the Kevin Porter Jr., the USC guy's father, was shot down while protecting a young girl as well. So it's kind of weird how he made that comment. And yeah, it's semi-basketball related, but it's also like, if you like how LeBron said recently, if all these guys do their research and everything before games and know a lot of stuff about people, and if it's someone that he knew that could have been related to somebody on a team that he covers, I'm sure he would have done more, you know, work to understand who it was and not make a comment like that. It was pretty bad, but yes, LeBron stood up for him because he knew he had to. Maybe it could be another lead way to try to get him onto the Lakers, because the Lakers could use a guy like Kevin Porter Jr., in my opinion. But yeah, overall it was a pretty bad situation, and yeah, it was a really dumb comment. Shouldn't have done that. So yeah, thanks for watching, people. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.